This is Gerardo Del Real from the 2021 Precious Metal Summit in beautiful Beaver Creek. I am here with the CEO of Gold Bull Resources, Ms. Cherie Leeden. Cherie, we shook hands. It's a pleasure to see you in person.
Nice. So nice to be in person.
It's overdue. Thank you so much for making the time. You and I have been chatting back and forth for several months, and every time you and I have a conversation in public, I tease you about the fact that I want an update on the 5 million ounce resource base across all categories. And we'll talk about that here in just a bit. For those of you not aware, when Cherie and I met, we talked about the goal. And the goal at Gold Bull has always been to discover gold ounces and to buy gold ounces on the cheap to try to get to a gold resource of approximately 5 million ounces. We aggressively hope that would happen by the end of 2021, so we'll get an update there. But first off, can you provide a brief overview of the company for those that may not be familiar with your background and the team?
Absolutely. So Gold Bull was born in August of last year. We're a COVID company, essentially. I live in Nevada, so do our team. So we're all on the ground in Nevada. And it was born out of the acquisition of the Sandman asset, which we purchased in cash from Newmont. And the Sandman asset already boasts 500,000 ounces. We've grown that from 310,000 ounces to 494,000 ounces over the last 6 months or so. And so we've also been busy doing exploration drilling to further increase that resource base at Sandman. So Sandman is a flagship project. However, we're definitely on the hunt for additional resources, both via acquisition and discovery. And on that note, we're in dialogue with a number of companies, just entertaining potential M&A opportunities, mergers, acquisitions. We're open to any ideas if there's value for our shareholders.
And you're very humble, but I love that you say that you're open to ideas because I know you have plenty. Again, for those that may not be familiar with your background and what you did in your prior incarnations with other companies, such as the Newmonts of the world, can you explain to everyone kind of your upbringing in the resource space?
Sure. I'm a geologist by background and specialize in project generation. And prior to creating Gold Bull Resources, the team at NV Resources were placing a number of resource assets and finding them homes, vending them to public or private companies. So we've looked at a lot of assets, over the course of NV Resources. And we're basically going for our favorites now in Gold Bull. We've got relationships, with the majors, with the juniors. Most of our team are either ex-Rio Tinto or ex-BHP. So we've got pretty good relationships with some of these companies. And the Newmonts of the world, they're not really interested in a few million ounces. So we think a few million ounces is a nice number, especially if you can consolidate a couple of circa 2 million ounce projects. It gets to the 5 million ounces pretty quickly. So that's obviously the goal. And we've got a number of projects that we're in advanced discussions with.
Well, I know you're selective and I know you're not going to want to give away any of the details behind the advanced discussions. So let me pivot back to Sandman and what makes that asset so special.
So Sandman, there's limited downside as we see it because we've got the 500,000 ounces. It's essentially sticking out of the ground.
In Nevada, in
a mining friendly place. We also own many of the surface rights, associated with the mineral rights. It's located near the mining hub of Winnemucca. So 500,000 ounces, at today's gold price, you can do some back of the envelope numbers and it starts looking pretty attractive. Those resources also remain open in a number of directions, and the majority of this year's drilling has been expanding on that. Where we've got a resource that's open, we put a few holes outside and no surprise, we've got gold. And we haven't come out with an increased resource yet based on our recent drilling. Just yesterday we announced another 6-month summary of drill results, and it doesn't take rocket science to work out that the resource is growing. We've drilled 3 of our 4 resources and they've all hit mineralization outside the known resources. And Southeast Pediment is probably just the next cab off the rank. We just didn't drill that one this time. So growing the resource at Sandman, I guess, is twofold approach. That's the first fold. The second fold is we want to find another sleeper. And Sandman's only 30 kilometers south of the sleeper mine, and that was discovered by a geologist named John Wood in the 80s. And we've just engaged John as a mentor and advisor to our team. And John's been on site. We spent a week with John in Winnemucca recently and said to John, where would you look for another sleeper within our portfolio? And to paraphrase, he's like, well, you've got so much gold at the surface. You've got 500,000 ounces of known gold in the tertiary. It's like, where's that coming from? And he was just baffled that no one's been really focusing on a geological contact of tertiary rocks up top basement rocks below. Everyone's been looking at these tertiary rocks because you've got this gold sticking out of the ground, but that's essentially been a distraction for the predecessors, including us over the last 6 months. It's just so easy to add to those ounces that no one's really looking for the mother lode that is sourcing that gold that we're seeing at the surface. So, with John's direction, we've actually changed our exploration strategy, and commencing in Q4 will be a drill program looking for that sleeper deposit that no one's been drilling for at that contact. So super exciting times for Sandman.
So John doesn't lend his name out very easily. He doesn't lend himself to being impressed very easily either. So for him to publicly opine in that manner, there has to be a certain level of credibility for him. He believes that's the most obvious target for you to find the next sleeper.
For sure. I mean, he's saying there's just so much gold anomalism to just, we've got gold anomalism over a 20-kilometre area,
right,
and there's only 500,000 ounces that's been defined. So he's like, well, this doesn't really make sense that you've got a surface footprint that big and only 500,000 ounces generating all that anomalism. So, and he's also created our model, which is essentially your gold is brought to the surface through a structure such as a fault.
Right.
And then the obvious place for the gold to disperse is at a pressure release point. And that obvious place is the contacts between these two very different rock types.
Right.
And so most of the geology, or most of the drilling to date has been in that surface geology, and very little drilling has actually focused on that contact zone. So we're probably going to be drilling a little deeper than they did historically. Historically, most of the holes were less than 100 meters.
Right. And
we're going to be drilling more like 200 to 400 meters to pierce this contact point. And you don't need to have close space drilling.
Right.
If there's going to be a big deposit, you're going to get that probably on 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre kind of space drilling. So we're not proposing to drill a ton of holes, but we are proposing to drill deeper holes, much deeper than they have, to ensure that we intersect that favourable horizon. And if we get anomalous gold in that, then we're going to be onto something pretty interesting.
Sounds like you just shared the new geological model with us, and even I understood
right?
it.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm really glad that a non-geo got it.
Love it, love it. I think we're going to close the year in a very, very strong precious metals environment, and I think the sentiment is going to pick up from where it's been the past 12 months, where it's been a consolidation, right? Mm-hmm. A clear consolidation. Gold Bull's market cap right now is currently at
around $25 million, with 500,000 ounces to back that up.
In Nevada.
In Nevada, yeah.
Drilling in Q4 on the M&A trail.
Absolutely.
A lot to like.
Absolutely.
Anything else to add, Cherie?
Watch the space, watch the space on the M&A, and especially on these Sandman exploration holes that we intend to drill Q4.
We'll make sure to put a link up to the corporate presentation with that new geologic model.
Super.
As soon as we get it. An absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your support.